So we're gonna start off by making this. So it's basically just regular dollar store foam board, but instead I took all the paper off of it to make it really light. This by itself is like 8 grams, so it's very light. Or I think, yeah, it was like somewhere around there. Then you want to pick yourself up some of these 420 millimeter by 3 millimeter carbon fiber tubes, and you want to cut a slit into the foam. So the foam dimensions are 500 millimeters per wing, and the thickness of it is 106 millimeters. So it's 500 by 106 millimeters long. And then this, I don't think it really matters. We're about to see though when it flies. But yeah, so just put this in here. And then I'm gonna get scotch tape and put it on the bottom to hold it together. And then you mix up some epoxy so that you can hold in the carbon fiber rod. And yeah, I'll show you what it looks like. So as you can see, it's cured up. It takes about, I leave it for about an hour. It says about 30 minutes, but I leave it for an hour because it's still a little tacky. Yeah, put scotch tape on both sides, and it makes it a very strong wing, and it doesn't add much weight because carbon fiber is pretty light. And then it's ready to make, and you want to do it for both of these the same exact way. Yeah. Okay, so I finished gluing the wings. They're spar in, so now let's work on the taper for the airfoil. Okay, so now that you've sanded your taper into it, it should look something like this. So it might be a little rough because with the sandpaper that I'm using 980 or P80, I mean. So now you want to go to something more like 600 grit sandpaper to like smooth it out so it's not so rough, because you don't want that catching on anything and tearing the foam. So yeah, and make sure when you're doing this to wear like a mask or something, because you don't want these particles getting in your lungs, because it can hurt your lungs. So I'll finish both the wings and show you when I'm done. Got the taper done on all of these. So in total, since both of these wings is 500 millimeters, it's going to be a 1,000 or 1 meter span glider, which is, I think, is pretty good for a glider. So now let's start working on the fuselage. So now I got this carbon fiber rod. I put it between here. There's a piece of scotch tape underneath, or just packing tape, that I put underneath, and so this can still bend and everything. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill this area with epoxy, and I'm gonna keep it at an angle when it's drying, so that when it's done drying, I'm gonna have a wingspan with a 55-degree angle for stability when it flies. So yeah, I'll show you when it's done. So now that the glider and the epoxy is like dried, or you don't even have to use epoxy, you can use something else too. But now that it's like dried, you want to put tape across it. And now we're gonna start working on the fuselage part of it, the nose of it. So yeah, let's work on it. Now that we have our 157 millimeter by 30 millimeter rectangle of foam, now we're gonna get a balsa stick that is like square stick, that is 5 millimeter by 5 millimeter. So it doesn't matter how long it is, as long as it can fit down the length of it and then connect to the wing. So let's do that. I have glued the wood pieces onto the piece of wood, or onto the foam, and these pieces are 180 millimeters long. So these are gonna act, this is just gonna be where you put the components. So I'm gonna put the servos right here and right here. So those will control the elevants for it. And then so yeah, this is gonna be that. All the components are gonna be on there. So and these right here will connect to the airplane wings, and be able to hold everything up. So yeah, I'll show you when it's done. That I've glued this to here, should look something like this. So I epoxied it down. So, yeah, this is just a piece of tape that I got stuck. But yeah, and then I cut a hole through it to have the servo leads roll down here, and then back to the front, so that I don't have to lead it over the servos and risk it getting caught. Right there, yeah. And now we're gonna work on the tail of it. Now we're gonna be making the tail wing. So for the tail wing, it's gonna be 263 millimeters by 74 millimeters. So 74 millimeters width, and then 263 millimeters length. So yeah, that's gonna be the first part. Now let's move on to the vertical stabilizer. Did a couple things off camera. I added a vertical stabilizer to it, and I covered it in tape. I took the paper off for both of those, and I put tape over it. And then I cut a notch, or I cut the slice. It was probably about 30 to 35 millimeters long for a control surface. And then I cut a groove. Here, I'll show you. I cut like a groove right there so that it could bend up and down for the thing, and then I cut a slot right there to stick the vertical stabilizer into. It's a little wrinkled because I didn't put the tape on very good, but it shouldn't really matter too. But I also tapered the thing so it could cut through the air and be more aerodynamic. And then I made a slit through here to stick the carbon fiber tube in. It's actually gluing right now. Got the epoxy on it right now so it can glue. And you gotta make sure it's straight, because if it's not straight, it'll deviate as it flies, and it won't fly as good. But yeah, when this is done setting, I'll update you guys. It's the morning now, and everything should be completely dry. And now I can show you the control surface, because I couldn't really show you it last time because everything was drying. But yeah, see how it folds and it's able to do that. I didn't show you how to actually do this, but you want to put tape on this side. You want to put tape on this side too, but cut off where it goes right here. There should be only foam. You don't want tape right here because it's just gonna mess with the fold. So you don't want that. But yeah. So now we're gonna work on the other control surfaces. Right here. I forgot what they're called. I'm pretty sure they're called ailerons or elevons. I know they're one of the two. So yeah, I'll cut out the elevons. Now what we're going to do is sand these down a little bit so they're not so rugged, and then sand an angle down this side, a 90-degree angle like I did over there. And then I'm gonna tape them down and I'll show you what they look like. So now I have sanded it to an angle. Now what we're gonna do is you're gonna put it on here and then tape it on so that it can bend up and down. Don't put it on the other side though, just one side. Okay? Yeah, I'll show you when I do both sides. So now I taped everything down, so now that's working. Also added a servo here. Servo right here so that I control this. And this wasn't long enough, so I added an extension. And this will root under right here, underneath this, go through a hole that I'm gonna put right here, and then go to the receiver on top. The receiver and battery, I'll show you how they go together right now. Here, so it's gonna go like this, right there, so that you can have all the ports that will come through here and go straight to the receiver. So now let's start working on the front of it, the enclosement of all the components. So yeah, I've added all the stuff that's gonna connect the electronics. I've added Velcro to stick the battery on. I've glued the receiver down, and I made that hole. And I taped down the connection lead that goes from there to here. Now I'm going to make the rods that will control the aileron or the elevons and the elevator for the airplane. So yeah. And after all, I'm not gonna do a enclosure for it. I'm probably just gonna do like a tape over it because I don't have any balsa right now, and the foam is too thick and it'll just interfere with it. So for now I'm just gonna leave it open and just put tape over it. But yeah, so yeah, for these you want to shorten them down so that they can fit right here, so you can control them. I'm not going to be putting them on top, I'm going to be putting them on bottom because that's the direction that my servos face. So yeah, I'll update you. You want to plug in your receiver so you can zero your servos. I'll turn on your transmitter, and mine are already basically zeroed, but I can zero it a little more. You want them to point straight down. Sorry, it's kind of hard doing this one-handed. But something like that. I know that's not perfectly straight, but it's we're gonna be making the rods a specific size, so it won't really matter. You want to trim the servo arms. you want them to look like this. Only 3 holes. Okay, now glue in your control horns. I already have, so yeah. Next step is now what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna cut this to the length that you want and bend it in so that you can control the servo. You're gonna want the bend to look something like this so that you can thread it through. Now you can control this with your control arm. So now you wanna do it for all 3. Now I've set up all of these, they're all connected, my receiver's on. Now you wanna make sure they're going the right way. So you can go into your reverses right here and make sure that they're all the right way around. So now once you're done, for the fly sky at least, you wanna press that. And then down, up, side to side. So this is all going the right way and everything's glued down. So I'm gonna go take this for a fly and we'll see how it does. Before I go for a flight, let me see how much it weighs. So I actually haven't weighed this one yet. So 149 grams. Pretty good, pretty good.
Yes, sir. There you go.